Okay, new article. It says, Chomsky says Trump a psychopathic megalomaniac who made United States singularly unprepared for a pandemic. New comments from the renowned academic come after he accused Trump of wanting to, quote, destroy the prospects for all organized human life in the near future. So he goes, the interview with Noam Chomsky and just the reaction to COVID and everything. What else? I got it. The failure of neoliberal capitalism. Everything's bubbling up, which we have been talking about just recently.
Yeah. And, he said earlier that the U.S. has shown to become a failed state now. Mm-hmm. And he's correct. I mean,
I agree. It's not organized. Go ahead.
And what's really alarming is to show you the bias that has developed in the media over the last 4 or 5 decades. Because do you see Chomsky on CNN, MSNBC? Do you see him on any of those mainstream outlets? But yet in the 60s, he had a show on NBC Sunday morning.
Oh,
he had a discussion show. Yes, he did.
And now
you could probably find some YouTube videos there. But he had a discussion show on NBC in the 60s.
You can see how far right we've gotten then.
And even then, he talked the way he does now.
Oh, wow. No.
That's probably why he's lived so long. He's very low key.
Yeah, he's saving his energy.
He's still with us. I'm glad about that, to be honest.
Well, he always has something good to say, and the way he frames it is always like unique and interesting. But I coined the term from him, neoliberal, like corporatist from the Democratic Party, and the way he frames it is interesting. Yeah, he talked about. Oh, go ahead.
No. I was saying, it's like, what you're saying is exactly correct. So yeah.
There was a part in the article, and he talks about, it says Chomsky also recently took aim at Trump's policies that are worsening the climate crisis. He said that the last month, the U.S. president wants to destroy all prospects for all organized human life, and in the near future, that's what it means to maximize the use of fossil fuels to cut regulations that might diminish or restrict that danger. So once again, it's just, Trump is this candidate that's anti-environment, is not interested in the longevity of human civilization. Paul Ryan savages. I mean, Paul Ryan isn't there anymore, but, the think tank, I guess, is still there.
And that's one way of putting it, that Trump is he only cares about his own bacon, in all seriousness. But here's a scary scenario to think about, and this could very well happen, in that the Republicans could invoke the 12th Amendment. It's basically a way to determine the presidency if no one wins the popular vote or the electoral votes.
So how would that come into play in the 2020 election? What's going on?
Well, if you look at the rhetoric of the Republicans and Trump lately, they're setting this up. Okay. They're actually setting things up, and basically, they're talking about, we can't have mail-in voting because it's so much fraud. And in Louisiana, the legislature met on Zoom to debate this, do we allow mail-in voting or not? And they decided to not allow mail-in voting after mailing in their votes.
I know, it's idiocracy.
So it's okay for them, but not for translation people of color.
And okay, yes, you're onto something, because we can already transition into that, is the mail-in ballot issue with Trump and what's really going on. I wanted to bring up, so in the 21st century, okay, my lifetime basically, plus 8, George W. Bush was the first 8 years, and then, Obama, and then Trump. But interestingly, the Republicans lost in the last two times Republicans won, they lost the popular vote. And there's that concern, right, that they're losing without the Electoral College, the article you sent, they're not going to win. So this is that, they're trying to strategize, like you say, or set something up to where they're going to win, but they have to diminish democracy to do that because their message is not resonating anymore. The popular vote always goes to the Democrat usually, right, in the 21st century. And it's not.
And don't forget, Bush also did not win the 04 election. Well, the 00 election was handed to him. He did not win the 04 election because of Ohio. What happened in Ohio was that John Kerry was leading by 6 points, and they were using electronic machines manufactured by Diebold. And Karl Rove said, wait a second, that can't be right. Oh, what's the matter? The programming fix didn't happen. And within an hour, the 6-point deficit that Bush had was suddenly a 6-point gain. And that was the difference. Bush won Ohio, he got the second term, but he really did lose the popular vote there. But because Diebold, made the electronic machines with no paper trail, and the CEO of Diebold is on record as saying, I will do whatever I can to deliver the state of Ohio to George W. Bush. And he did. He flipped the votes. He changed the tallies.
Yeah, I see it here on.
So that's now 3 out of 5 elections in 1 century alone. So going back to what's going to happen with the 12th Amendment is that Trump could state, well, this fraud and we don't recognize the mail-in ballots. Don't forget, the states have to certify the results before it releases the electors to vote in the electoral college. If they don't certify the results, those electors are taken out of the play, and therefore they will not be, you may not have enough to get a majority of the, to get to 269 basically. So then at that point, it goes to the House of Representatives, and each state gets 1 vote.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's Wyoming or California, they get 1 vote.
Fuck.
And that's how the president, and by the way, this has happened before in the past. John Quincy Adams, that's how he became president. And then there's 1876 with the Rutherford B. Hayes and Sam Tilden. Oh my God, was that a clusterfuck? It was a whole bunch of shenanigans with that thing. It involved Florida again, by the way.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's like the Gilded Age, right? Where like the corrupt politicians were just blatantly corrupt.
So this could very, very well happen. And Trump is going to do everything he can to stay in office, and he may very well declare himself president for life.
You still hold
make himself a dictator.
Oh my God.
That's what he's going. That's why
we talked about this before, but yeah, I can see it. Unfortunately,
it's becoming clearer and clearer that this is not crazy hyperbole, but this could in fact come down the pipe.
Okay, let's dive deeper into that because that is serious in regards to.
It's scary shit, to be blunt.
Yeah, it is, and I want to touch a little bit more on that because I think you have a lot of interesting things to say on it. No, it's.
Please go for it.
Okay, so it goes back to the mail-in ballot, right? It's a rigged election. He went after Twitter saying, basically don't mess with me in a way, don't question me. I'm the president. He's going after the private corporation of Twitter for tagging him, and this is not accurate information. So side note, Twitter is a private corporation, and he always wants private, corporations. So, he gets a little backlash there. But, anyway, it goes back to, he's not going to allow. The message is Biden isn't winning in the polls right now because of how Trump is handling the crisis. A lot of crises going on. And, his photo op, and there's a lot of things. He's very controversial always. And just the past 3 years have been fucking circus. So Biden is leading. He's going to, like you said, call that this is a rigged election and say, I'm not leaving because I don't believe in the polling. I don't believe in the results, depending on what happens in November. I'm not gonna accept the results. And then you say that's because he's having, the businesses are coming after him, or he's being what was it? He's corrupt. The issue is, we talked about this before.
Well, one of the things he's concerned about is that the Southern District New York Court, it has a whole bunch of indictments waiting for him.
Right, that's okay. Yeah, this is why we have you, Jim. Jim!
All this corruption bullshit that he's done. And because it's on a state level, it's stuff that he can't get a pardon for. So this stuff he could go to jail. So by him staying as president, he avoids all of that.